Hello class, it's Instructor Paige. Congratulations, you are now working toward your demonstration speeches. Honestly, I think this is my favorite speech of the class. It's really fun to demonstrate something you know really well, and it's fun to be able to use props if you can, and it can be really cool to see what we all learn and teach one another. I wanted to share a few things about this speech, that way you feel prepared and ready. Since we're not in a class, I wanted to give you a tiny bit of a lecture to try to help us out. Now, as a reminder, a demonstration speech is a how-to speech. The goal of this speech is to show the steps of how to do something. Now, for this, really imagine your audience has never done this before or has no knowledge of what you're demonstrating. That way, if you're showing even something as simple as a peanut butter and jelly, how to make it, imagine we've never made it before. That way, it really helps your audience start at the same level and we kind of work our way up. The goal in this speech, we really want to work toward clarity, and I'll kind of work on that in a second. Here's a few things. This is how I will be grading. Hopefully you can see okay. I might try to move camera thingy. But your goal for this is to work on attention getters. If you looked in week 3, we had some introduction speeches and how to start a speech strong. And you really want to make sure you do that for these speeches. You don't want to start with, hi, my name is, or telling us, I will be demonstrating how. You really want to dive in and get our attention right away. You also need to make sure, again, your wording is clear, that everything makes sense. If you're describing something, we'd be able to do it with our eyes closed. We could picture it without actually seeing the visuals. But of course, for this speech, you also need visuals, which you can see on the screen. Visuals are very important. I've had a student in the past who showed how to make chicken Alfredo, and he just spoke the whole recipe. There was no pictures, there was no props showing how to make it. He just spoke about it, which is good, but it was also not using what you could, the tools to really help that retention of our demonstrations. And that's why visuals are required for this speech. And your goal is to reach between 5 and 10 minutes. And I'll kind of break down some ideas how to do that, but it's a good range in case it's a shorter speech or you need to give a little bit more time. Now, with organizing your speech, definitely know your audience, your purpose. You want to make sure you're sharing why something's important. If you're talking about, I'm going to show you how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you are breaking it down and telling us why should we learn how to make this. Maybe this is something you do a little different than others. Believe it or not, some people put peanut butter on both sides and jelly in the middle. Hey, whatever works for you. But tell your audience this class, what is the value of what you're demonstrating? Why is this important? Is it something you could make for someone else, or it makes you feel good that you've learned something new? And then you could even share the steps you're going to do and actually perform those steps. And then also, I'll move this again, you kind of summarize and review what you have at the end. That way it really sticks out to your audience. Now, visuals are 43% more persuasive. They're also, I forget the statistics, 60% more retention, like we remember more of what we see. And we learn that in a later date in the class, which is okay. But this is why we want to practice these visuals now. That way later, when we're doing a persuasive speech and the required, it's something semi-familiar. Now, visuals can do what we cannot say. If you're showing how to make something, it really helps to actually show it. It connects with the audience and we get a better idea of how to do something. And the next one here, kind of jumping around with the camera, is retention. That is Michael Scott, in case anyone's curious from The Office. Of course, it helps your audience remember more of what you do. Believe it or not, the audience only remembers about 25% of your speech. Generally, that's the beginning of your speech and the very end. The middle kind of gets lost as we think about a speech, and that's why if you share the steps at the beginning and you share them at the end, it's kind of like a sandwich of your speech and does help with retention. Make sure your visual aids are clear. You want to make sure the audience can actually see what you're doing. Since you're doing this online, if you have someone hold your camera for you, that way they can come close to see a picture and zoom on back. That way they can actually get more of your visuals. Different things you can do is you could use props. Obviously, that could be fun. If you like, that would be things like the bread, the peanut butter, the jelly, the knife. You definitely want things like that. Sometimes you could have a video, you could have someone record it and you just show everything on a video and kind of break it through. It could be photos. Maybe you don't actually have all the things with you that you need. That would be okay to take pictures and put it on slides and do step by step per slide to really help break it down. I've had some do handouts and they hand it out to their audience and share this is a recipe that they mastered. And then of course, I'm trying to go really fast because this program only lets me do 10 minutes. So hopefully I'm not going too quickly. But make sure you are very clear with your photos and that things are understandable. Pass things around with your audience. Like if you're showing how to make a PB&J and you show how to cut it, you could pass it to your audience so they can have an idea. Now for some, it's really hard to get everything they need. Maybe you're from a different area and you're not, with all your stuff that you're used to, which is why you might use a slide or a PowerPoint, which is wonderful. Here are a few tips for your slides. First, keep it simple. Don't put everything you're going to say on a slide. That will put your attention on there and you won't be able to engage your audience, which is why you want to keep it simple with bullet points and never have a full sentence. Believe it or not, keep it short, sweet. As you can see here, it's not a full sentence and that's fine. We're not writing a paper. It's not an essay. Some other things is keep it very short. Try not to go more than 35 words per slide. If you keep it shorter, it keeps people listening to what you're saying rather than reading a slide. And that's important. So keep everything nice and brief. Some students don't even have words on a slide. They just have photos, and that's perfectly fine. All right, toward your speech, you don't want to start with, "Hi, my name is," or "I will be demonstrating for you today." I call that, it kills the speech right from the get-go. Everyone wants to start with that, and that's why I say please don't start with that. You want to start your speech strong. You can share your name and what you're demonstrating later, but first use what's called the attention getter. There are 10 different ways our book shares with grabbing attention. I will pop a few of these up so you can kind of read them, but you could start with things that are humor. You could start with a quote. Some people start with a story of how they learned the idea, and anything like this. I've had some even just do music and they're like, "Hey, welcome," and they pretend they're on a show. Whatever works. You just don't want to start with, "Hi, my name is," which, side note, that's how I started this presentation, but I have to make sure you know you're in the correct classroom. Here is some other things. For your introduction, you'll see this on your outline. First, you grab our attention. You tell us a story that captivates, and then you want to give us a reason to listen. If you're doing peanut butter and jelly, you could share this is a really easy thing that I've learned to do from my mom or my family and share it from there, and then give them a reason, say I do it a little bit different to try to grab attention. Then of course, after you've got our attention, you told us why it's important to listen, then introduce what you're going to demonstrate or your name. That's totally fine. I don't want to cut that out completely. That's a good way to first get our attention. And then of course tell us, why are you the expert? Why is this something we should listen to and trust what you are saying? If you share your credibility, that helps boost that in the speech and helps people really listen. And then of course you could preview if you want to, but that's completely optional as we haven't gotten into transitions just yet. To wrap it up, your speech goals. You want to stay in the time length, make sure it's in that time frame. If you are showing how to tie a tie and you see, ooh, it's only 2 minutes long, my biggest tip for you is involve your audience. Have one of them come up and you could be like, now you try, and you break it down the steps again of what to do, and you can involve them to make it more fun for the audience and also more fun for you. You want to have a strong attention getter. Don't start with "my name is." Don't start "I will be demonstrating." Save that for after you've grabbed our attention. Then of course, clear wording. Imagine your audience doesn't know what you're sharing. Kind of break things down at a beginner level and kind of work your way up. Make sure your visuals are clear and that you actually are using visuals. And if you do all that, you're going to do a stellar speech, and I can't wait to see them all. You have a wonderful week, and if you have any questions, just email me.